This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. It feels good to be back and see you after our short little break for the Thanksgiving holiday. And usually when we're gone for these weekends and come back on Monday, there's not a lot of news to report. But not yesterday. Stellantis dropped a bombshell that its CEO Carlos Tavares is out. And he's out after a disruptive year with so many things going wrong. Sales, profits, and the stock price have plummeted. Employee morale is at rock bottom. Car dealers, especially in the U.S., are in open revolt against Tavares. So are the UAW and unions in Europe, as well as the Italian government, and suppliers despise the way the company is treating them. So with all that in mind, seeing Tavares go isn't really much of a surprise. To us, the real surprise is that the board kept him on when it was obvious things were spiraling out of control. And that suggests the board did not have a plan B. It announced it will form a committee to run the company for now, and it will hire a new CEO sometime in the next 6 months. Okay, now over to China, where we're getting early sales reports for November, and one set of numbers is going to shock the entire industry. BYD reported sales of just over 504,000 cars for the month, up 67% from last year. That includes over 198,000 BEVs and almost 306,000 PHEVs. BYD's sales target this year was 3.6 million vehicles, but it's already past that and actually is on track to sell 4.3 million. If it hits that number, it's going to surpass Nissan, Honda, and Ford to become the 6th largest automaker in the world. And if BYD could maintain that November sales rate through the rest of next year, it has every chance of surpassing General Motors and Stellantis to become the 4th largest. We've been predicting that BYD could become the largest automaker sometime in the next decade, but maybe we were a bit too conservative, because at this rate, it could happen before the end of this decade. You know, we've heard of Chinese tech companies like Huawei and Xiaomi getting into the car business, but now it's going the other way. BYD is assembling iPads and making iPhone parts for Apple in China. It has 10,000 engineers and 100,000 workers developing and making tablets and parts for Apple. In fact, BYD also makes phones for Huawei and Xiaomi. Some people say that cars are becoming computers on wheels, but others say no, they're actually becoming smartphones on wheels. And having expertise in both phones and cars is turning out to be a very powerful combination. But not everything is going great for BYD. It's being investigated in Brazil for mistreatment of workers at the assembly plant it's building there. Almost half of the construction workers at the site were brought in from China, and some are reportedly working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, without safety helmets. Bathrooms are also said to be filthy, while living accommodations are cramped and dirty. And there are reports of foremen resorting to violence to get workers to work faster. One problem is that construction is behind schedule, but that doesn't justify the treatment. BYD blames the issues on one of the 3 contractor groups it hired to build the plant, and it sounds like the Brazilians working at the site don't have it that bad.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Toyota is making some upgrades to the 6-cylinder version of the Supra. I'm sure, unfortunately for some of you, this does not include any changes to the car's looks. But if you're a driving enthusiast, you might be able to appreciate what Toyota has done. It revised shock tuning, added a stiffer front sway bar, gave it stronger rubber bushings, and improved body rigidity with a beefier underfloor brace, which changed the chassis characteristics of the car. So, then it slapped on bigger front disc brakes and optimized the electronic power steering, active diff, and alignment angles to help reduce understeer and improve handling. Toyota says the upgraded Supra will start launching in the spring of next year. And for our friends in Europe and Japan, you could be able to get your hands on an even more extreme version of the Supra called the A90 Final Edition, but it will be limited to just 300 examples. Thanks to freeing up airflow in the intake and exhaust, Toyota was able to boost output to nearly 430 horsepower, which is an increase of over 45 horsepower. The car also gets upgrades to the engine oiling and cooling system, bigger brakes, body and suspension tweaks, lighter wheels, stickier tires, aero enhancements, and unique styling features. No word on pricing, but it also launches in the spring of next year. Many different forms of transportation use GPS, and a lot of people would be lost without it. But the technology is becoming more vulnerable, so the U.S. military is turning to startups developing quantum technology that can be used as an alternative. The Department of Defense just awarded $11 million to a Colorado-based company called Inflection to develop its quantum positioning technology, while another startup called Sandbox AQ has a contract with the U.S. Air Force to develop its magnetic navigation system, which doesn't use satellites at all. But it would be a long time before we see any of this tech in consumer products. Many cities are banning gas-powered cars from driving in downtown areas to help reduce congestion and emissions. At the end of the month, Stockholm, Sweden was planning on only allowing electric cars, some hybrid trucks, and fuel cell vehicles in a section of the city's downtown. But that decision was appealed, and a county board has rejected Stockholm's ICE vehicle ban. DS Automobiles, which is part of Stellantis, revealed the name of the concept car that it first teased a few weeks ago. It's called Number 8. In fact, future models will also adopt the number naming strategy. But instead of the word number, it will use shorthand with a capital N and a little O in the corner, like the degree symbol. But in this instance, instead of the little O, it used a diamond because DS says it helps symbolize elegance and expertise. The actual number, in this case 8, corresponds with the size and segment of the model. And we'll be interested to see how close the production car sticks to this concept, because that interior is a big styling change. Earlier this year, oil giant Aramco announced plans to buy a 10% stake in Horse, the powertrain JV between Renault and Geely. And now it's completed its acquisition of that stake, which is valued at 7.4 billion euros. In addition to developing next-gen ICE and hybrid powertrains, Horse will also focus on developing synthetic fuels and lubricants. Instead of catalytic converters, in the future, thieves might be more interested in your car's computer. A French startup called DimeFab is testing semiconductor chips that are made with lab-grown synthetic diamonds. The company says the chips can handle higher voltage and temperature, so they could replace silicon and silicon carbide chips in cars. It expects high volume production to be ready in about 3 years. And as you might expect, diamond chips are more expensive. It didn't say how much more, but believes the number of chips in a car could be reduced from 1,000 to 3,000 down to 250 to 750, which would help lower costs. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for making Autoline a part of your day.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Developing today's vehicles. Issues can happen in an instant. When's the best time to solve a problem? The minute you know you have one. Meet Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your secure, off-the-shelf solution empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Performance that shines, even in the rain. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Potenza tires, improved grip in wet conditions.